25 episodes.
Let's say that right away.
Oh, I thought we already started.
Oh, no, you got to do your intro. Unless if you want me to do it.
Nope. That's my part. Ozonics Killer.
Every time, man. Never fails.
I don't know why it's so hard to say.
It's crazy to think that we're 25 in. And you're still struggling with that.
I'm still struggling with it.
Oh, geez.
Which makes me feel like I'm not a very smart person that I can't say Ozonics Killerwinds podcast.
Tongue twister.
You know why it is? Because I try to go, hey, everybody, Ozonics Killerwinds podcast. And I try to say it with a little bit of a...
Spunk.
A little bit of a higher noise like this, and it makes me sound stupid. You never want to talk with your puke voice.
No.
You don't want to be like, hey, everybody, welcome to the show. Sounds like I'm puking. You don't want to be like that.
Welcome back to 95 on 5 Wax all stacks all stacks.
Hey, guys, if you're going to be on I-35 northbound, watch out for the Yogi. He's heading southbound with the hammer down.
All right, let's get serious.
A lot of people don't know this. I used to be a truck driver. When I was a truck driver, our home base, we had two-way radios and we had CBs. Mm-hmm. Well, two-way radio, our home base was KZX 719. That's what you said. Yeah, there, KZX 719. Anna, you got a copy? That was my grandma. Her name was Anna. And she'd be like, and then you hear press a button. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, KZX 719, Anna. Yeah, go ahead. And she'd get on there. Yeah, KZX 719. Yeah, just came out of Hampton. Just ran into a cop going northbound. Just watch out for that.
Copy.
Yeah. You don't have to make the noise. It does that automatically. Over and out. You know what movie that's from?
What?
You don't even. Gosh darn.
What?
I think that movie. I think it was Biodome when he goes, or no, maybe it was Wayne's World. Anyway.
Anywho,
we'll probably just have to start over. All this is just completely irrelevant.
Let's just roll right into it.
Just go into it. Just go for it.
Yeah.
This little mark on the table. And it's gone.
For people who are listening, Cole just rubbed a mark off the table for...
Yep. And that's been bothering me for a while.
And now it's gone.
And now it's gone forever.
Yep. So, all right, so what are we talking about today?
I didn't even do the intro.
I mean, you kind of did.
I did?
Yeah, but...
I completely...
kind of botched it.
I did. I botched it. But before I already started, if this is officially started, then I'm not even going to say it.
No need to.
Okay, all right. Well, let's just get into it then.
Yeah.
Okay, so today we are talking about shot placement.
Shot placement. Everything about shot placement.
Yep. And the interesting thing before, and not ironically, it really, it was very applicable to something that just happened to us.
Right.
Just like last week.
Right. And probably happened to a lot of people.
Happens to a lot of people, I think, all year long.
Yeah.
I think as we talked about doing this podcast, I think shot placement is something that I think doesn't get discussed enough, doesn't get talked about enough, right?
Yeah.
I think we all as hunters think about when we're going to hunt, how we're going to hunt, where we're going to hunt. We think about that stuff a ton.
Yeah.
We're always thinking about that. Where are we going to go? What's the wind doing? What stand am I going to set? Am I going to rattle? Am I going to grunt?
Yeah.
Where are the deer at? Oh, man. What am I wearing today? Clothes, gear, work, kids.
Yeah.
It's just like all the stuff going on. And it's funny, I think I've been guilty of this too. I don't think about shot placement until I'm drawing the bow back.
Yeah.
And I think that we all need to spend a little bit more time thinking about it.
Yeah.
Because the reality is that in the heat of the moment, you have sometimes just a couple split seconds to make that decision of where you're going to try to put that arrow. But we've got all the time in the world right now to think about it.
Yeah.
It's no different than any type of sport.
Yeah.
You practice so you can be really good when the game comes.
Yeah.
And I think we all need to practice per se and just think about shot placement a bit more.
Yeah.
So that when that moment comes, you know what to do.
Yeah.
It's not that we're saying people don't know what to do, but I think that I know I've had lots of buddies when I guided, you'd ask a guy, well, where were you aiming? Like, where'd you hit it? I don't remember a thing.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. Like, I hit it. You hear that a lot.
Yeah.
And, we all spend so much time working all year round.
Yeah.
Summer, spring, summer, fall, trying to get ready for this 3, 4, 5 week, 6 week window of this magical time of the year that we call the rut, and then that deer gets in front of you,
Yeah.
and you hit in the wrong spot.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, exactly.
And so, man, that can just make or break everything.
Yeah, it's like it's something that you should just add to your thought process from the second you get into the tree to the second you leave. It's like, if this deer walks here, like,
what am I going to do?
What am I going to do? How am I going to react? Like, or especially like if you're in like a timber setting or something, like, okay, if he kind of walks behind there, I got to wait a little bit. Like, it obviously you're kind of thinking about that already, but then you should add like, okay, if he's at 15 yards and he's standing right there, what's my angle? How is he going to be standing? What's the trail doing? Will he be a little quartering away? Does that change where I should hold my pin? Like, there's just a ton of things that you should be kind of putting through your mind a little bit just to, because like you said, it happens really fast. And so if you kind of already have that mindset already kind of dialed in, it might seem a little slower than it really is. You know what I mean?
Well, I think it's interesting because that's been an adjustment for me this season.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've noticed things that I just usually, the conversation that I just kind of have in my head when I'm out there that I have with you.
Yeah. I
mean, we were out, you know, whenever it was yesterday, and we got up in this tree and I'm kind of going through, okay, there's hopefully my number one shot.
Yeah.
But if it steps a little farther on that other trail, and then I can shoot him right here on this side of the tree.
Yeah.
And if I need to, I could do here. And then I go through it with you and I'm like, hey man,
exactly.
This is probably where I'm going to be.
Yep.
And this is a 20-yard shot. Or I've had him before come on this side, the left side of that tree. Can you make that work for you on camera? Because that works great for me.
Yeah.
This over here is really bad.
Yeah.
But I think I try to go through it.
Yeah, exactly.
And again, that's just usually what I would do, just looking and thinking about, just trying to kind of process, okay, in this spot today, I have a lot of steep angles. I don't have an opportunity where I can shoot 30 or 40 yards where my angle goes from this more to like this.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, exactly. And
like a steep, moderate, low angle, you know what I mean, type deal.
Yeah, and it's like, I mean, yeah, like what you said is perfect. Like, and like we'll be up there we take a good probably 5-10 minutes to practice everything. Like, okay, if he's right there and you draw, where do I need to be? Do I need to move a little bit? Where do I need the camera arm and stuff like that? So inherently, that's actually probably a pretty good thing because we're just in that mindset already, kind of, just because you're dealing with two people, not one.
Yeah, it makes you think about it.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, and I think that's just really what we want to discuss. And again, like I mentioned just a minute ago, ironically, we had a situation where, where this episode where it kind of
came about.
Yeah, and grew from was we were out and we were on a spot where we have some cameras and there was a lot of does working in on this big scrape, big community scrape that's just like,
it's huge.
Yeah, big as a car hood.
It's to put it in perspective, when you get a trail cam picture, the scrape is the entire length of the trail cam picture.
Yeah, it's big.
It's huge.
It's just big. It's crazy. I mean, it's like, it is a scrape of all scrapes. And it's been that way. I mean, it's mid-October here, and it's been that way since like the beginning of October.
Yeah, since I went out there and hung it.
Yeah, yeah. And so we knew we had a bunch of does coming on that camera. It's like, hey, let's go out there and let's try it, you know? And we just did a hanging hunt. We had like a southwest wind.
Yep.
So the southwest made it a little sketchy because it was kind of blowing into that bedding area, but we were hoping they were farther down to the east.
Exactly.
But we had the Ozonics set up if they were straight behind us or a little bit to the east.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't perfect by any means.
No.
You know, like it was like, well, it's better on a south wind than anything else.
Exactly.
Let's try it.
Yeah.
You could sneak in there really good with a south wind. Like, let's try it.
Then we were just hoping that they were going to cross that line farther enough away.
Yep.
And then once they crossed the line, they were pretty much good the entire way.
Once they crossed the line, they were going to be north of us, and then we really didn't have anything to worry about.
Yeah.
And so we got in there, and sure enough, probably like it was well before dark.
Yeah.
And here these does came marching in. And to give perspective, we were probably 15 feet off the ground. We had 4
whatever
step
4
sections.
steps would be.
Yeah, so it was like 15 to 18 feet off the ground.
Yeah.
I was at an angle where I was sitting in the tree stand like this, and I was shooting back this way.
Yep.
And then Nick was set here.
Up and to the left of you.
Yep. So he kind of had a better angle than I did. I kind of had to almost like shoot past you a little bit.
Yeah.
But the scrape was right at 30 yards.
Yeah.
28 to 30 yards, kind of depending on where they stood. It was like that's where they were going to be. And so sure enough, these does walked in. They acted like deer, right? And I think we talk a lot about that with Ozonics in the fact of And there's a whole nother discussion you can have about deer behavior and how they act and the way that they react and, when they walk in on a situation. But they walked in like they were just doing what they do.
Yeah.
They were looking around. They were just kind of a little hesitant, but they knew they weren't smelling anything.
No.
They weren't seeing anything.
No.
We were being very careful with movement.
Yeah.
They were very unaware that we were there.
Yeah.
So finally that deer walked in. It kind of stood, away from me, facing its butt towards me.
Yep.
Then it kind of quartered away. Then it kind of said broadside. Then we didn't really have a perfect shot. Then she turned and she was quartering away.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, here we go. You were on camera. Let's do this. Draw back. In my mind, I thought 30-yard shot.
Yeah.
And I just held middle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like not low, not high.
Yeah.
Like kind of like the top of the bottom third. And I was thinking, they're not going to jump it. They have no idea we're here.
Yeah.
Like, here we go. I shot. And when I shot, in my mind's eye said I hit high.
Yeah.
In that moment, I couldn't tell that she ducked.
Mm-hmm.
Like your brain can only process so much. My brain didn't tell me that she ducked. Instantly, I'm like, look, I'm like, dang, I hit her high,
Yeah.
And I'm like, and right away, I'm like, man, I shot her for 30, geez, like what? And she whirled out of there, like right now. I mean, she ran out of there.
Took
She was
out like a bat out of heck.
yeah, like she was on fire. Boom, she was gone. And she ran away. Then she crossed over on the fence, so we could see her do that. And then she was gone.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, jeez. And so, the nice thing about the footage is we watched it back.
Yeah.
And you could definitely see her duck.
Yeah, she ducked
I
hard.
mean, right now.
Yeah.
And that helped her, didn't help me.
Yeah.
And so we made the decision. We sat the rest of the way. I'm like, hey, we're just going to back out of here.
Yeah.
We could get down real quiet and ease out.
Yeah.
And just not disturb anything. I'm like, we'll just come back the next morning.
Yeah.
And so that's what we did. And we ended up blood trailing and we recovered her.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother story. Deer ended up getting eaten by coyotes, and it was a kind of a crappy deal.
Which we're gonna touch back on that story in a different episode.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
but it was just kind of how it worked out. But we blood trailed her, led right to her, and then we've just found a heap.
Yeah.
We found her shoulder blade, and we could probably show that, right?
Yeah.
We found her shoulder blade. I hit her right in the shoulder blade.
Yep.
With an expandable broadhead, just blew right through it. But the arrow was sticking out. You know what I mean? And so, they found him. Coyotes found him before we did.
Yeah.
You had coyotes on camera that night.
Yeah.
It was like we walked in there, we could hear the crows.
Yeah.
It's like, golly.
We kind of both. I feel like we didn't say it, but we both knew. Like, okay, yeah, she's in here somewhere.
Yeah.
Just a matter of us getting to her.
Yep. But yeah, but that was the interesting thing is in the heat of the moment, it's hard to see them duck.
Yeah.
And now looking back on it and just trying to be very objective and just, it is what it is. If I could do it over again, and hindsight's always 20/20, right? I would have held lower.
Yeah.
I should have held lower knowing that they were going to duck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I knew better.
Yeah.
I just felt like in the moment, I felt like I'm going to put my 30 on her. She doesn't know we're here. I felt like I could just hit her where I needed to hit her. And it didn't work out that way.
Exactly.
She ducked.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Moral of the story is hold a little low.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Especially at not a severe angle. That was more of kind of a moderate angle. You know what I'm saying? Because just that 30 yards, we weren't super high. And the way they were, it was like a little bit up from like the ground level.
Yeah. Because the ridge that's across us kind of starts right where they were.
Yep. So I should have just aimed a little lower.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
yeah, so we I made a couple things just to show how much they duck, and I have a couple different examples from a deer that I shot a couple years ago, and then a couple deer that Owen Riegler from Midwest Whitetail shot last year. So
and you can see that, and we'll show that right now. You can see that deer that we're talking about, and you can see the dot where it hit.
Yeah.
Or where I was aiming, and you could see the line on the top of her back, and how much she's getting, right? They load and then they go.
Yeah.
And she was, and I mean, it made sense where I hit her because she ducked out of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You could see that on those ones from Owen.
Yeah.
Same exact thing.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, how much that they do.
I mean, I've seen videos too where guys will put a line on the top and the bottom, and they will almost completely get out of the way.
Like a whole body's worth.
Yes, of where they were.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah. So we're going to show the videos and just talk about it kind of as we look through them. So
yeah. And I'll do the best job I can to describe. Yes. So Nick is grabbing his computer. He just set it on the table.
Opened it.
He's opening it up. Make sure you keep the screen vertical so we don't get the thing on.
Don't get the glare.
Don't get the glare from the light.
Oh, I need to record.
And he needs to record. So now he's clicking around frantically, sweating profusely. Oh no. And I think that's the thing that we could talk about as you're getting that ready. You know, the other thing to talk about when you're trying to figure out what you're going to do with the shot or where you're going to aim right off the bat is also weather variables. You know, in that situation, you know, I should have taken a little bit more into account the fact that it was super calm. I mean, it was super calm.
Yeah, it was a dead calm night.
There was nothing going. I mean, it was just a little bit of a hint of the wind you could feel, but it wasn't even hardly moving the leaves. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so when they heard that bow go off, they were getting out of there. You know what I mean? So I should have thought a little bit more about that in that situation on a real windy day, right? Like, not that they're not going to duck, but there's just that much more noise, you know, than in that situation. Am I in the way?
Can we just go kind of like this?
There you go.
All right, so this is the shot that Cole had just the other night. Like we were talking about before, as you can tell, in the wide open, you know, kind of quartering away a little bit.
Yep. Meaning like quartering away in the fact that you could see her front leg forward, you could see her back leg back. It's not like she was standing completely broadside,
right,
where her legs were just even with us. If she would have been even, her left front leg would have been in front of the other.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
So we're going to let this play here. She picks her head up. So there, you can see right there.
Isn't that crazy? Oh. Right now.
Come on. Come on. There. So, I mean, you can clearly see how much that she ducked. I mean, Cole's aim point is actually pretty dang solid, I would say.
Maybe could have gone a little bit more to the left.
A little bit that way.
You know, that is definitely hugging the shoulder. You know what I mean? Like, which is usually what I'm doing. And we'll talk about that more later.
Right, exactly.
You know?
Yep. And so, as you can see, I mean, she ducks like...
See you later.
A lot. Like, that's a big gap.
Yeah, that's a huge gap. And we're filming this from 30 yards away.
30 yards away.
Yeah.
So, I mean...
Yeah, that's pretty insane. Well, even if you frame by frame that and think about like how many frames that is, it's not very many.
Exactly.
Because this is being filmed at 120 frames per second.
Right, exactly.
120 frames per second.
Yeah.
And that arrow's getting there in what, 10 frames?
Yeah, about 10. So I just kind of pause it there, and then as you can see, she's running away, and you could tell too that it's a high shot from just how she runs.
Yep.
Then here's just another look without the red thing. So clearly high in the shoulder.
Yep.
For sure. And then we'll go to a buck that I shot a couple years ago, which is kind of the same thing. So as you can see, aiming low where I shot.
Steeper angle.
And then it should go here any second. And still, I mean, not as much, but still, I mean, if I hit where I'm aiming, it on his body, it's way low.
Yeah, he's getting out of there.
And he's getting out of there. But that was my mindset there. I knew that, so that was a 17 to 20 yard shot, and I knew, okay, if one comes in through here, I'm gonna aim low, hopefully hit the heart, and if he ducks, it'll be double long.
Yep.
You know, that was part of my thought process that entire morning, because I knew, okay, I'm not going to be able to shoot over 20 yards.
Yep.
And so I'm just going to hope that.
And that is honestly, that's my mantra. Yeah. Actually, we were with Scott and Buddy in Montana.
Yeah.
And I talked a lot about that on the car ride.
Yeah.
It's like, guys, man, and we'll talk about this later and kind of touch on it now. Especially with the compound bow, I'm a heart shot type guy. That's what I'm going for.
Yeah.
If I can have my arrow touch their heart.
Yeah.
So I'm inherently trying to aim low normally.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm trying to aim low. And then if they duck, they're still ducking into everything good.
Exactly.
You're still going to hit the top of the heart, or you're going to hit both the lungs. You're going to just smoke everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm usually going right up that front leg.
Yeah.
I'm not going back off of it. I'm hugging it.
Yeah.
Because inherently their leg bone comes up.
Yeah.
And then their shoulder blade's there. So you've got a nice spot there.
Yeah.
And so I'm doing exactly what you're doing in that situation. That's me when I'm trying to go through every time. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember too, like the pin being like what I just remember in my mind, like seeing the pin like pretty low on it, and I'm like, it's got to be good, you know. And plus another thing too to take note of, like this deer is 110% alert.
Yep.
Like he's looking towards you, like he knows kind of something's coming. Like you got to expect him to duck a little bit.
Yep.
In that situation.
Yep.
And so then next we'll show Owen Rieglers from last year. Shout out to Midwest Whitetail. Thank you for letting us use this footage.
Yeah. Shout out Midwest Whitetail. Shout out Chad Holmes. Shout out Mike Reed. Shout out Owen Riegler. Shout out.
Grant Caturbo. Gavin Caturbo, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's a good example of one that's not alert. It down eating, and the difference that I kind of take note of, and this is one thing, Owen had me do this because every deer he shoots, he looks at this.
Yep.
How they're acting before the shot and what they do as the shot is happening. And as you can see his back half drop way more than the front half. So like where that arrow hits is actually pretty close to where he was aiming, really, on the body.
Yep. The way I was always taught, and the experience that I've had, is if they have their head down and they're feeding, they're going to load with their back legs and then go. But if they're standing there, like, and I'm trying to keep my head on the microphone, but if they stand there and they're going like this, and they've got all their legs straight, they're going to load their whole body at the same time, and their whole body's going to drop.
Exactly.
Whereas if they've got their head down, it's almost like their butt loads, and then but where you're aiming doesn't really change as much.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Exactly.
And how they try to get out of there.
And that's exactly what happens in this video. This is crazy because this is literally exactly what you just described.
Yeah, all legs straight.
All legs straight. He stopped
and
big
thing, head up.
And watch, his entire body drops.
Yep.
Whether from the shoulders all the way back.
Yep. So go back to where he was aiming.
That's where it paused. That's where he hit.
Nope, you're good.
Come on. There.
Yeah, see, exactly. Low.
Yeah,
exactly.
Low.
Heart shot. Yeah.
But then, like we were just talking.
And even look at that. That deer is a little bit quartering too. See? How you could see his left front leg is behind his right leg.
Yep.
So which means his shoulders are turned a little, right?
Yeah.
So he's hugging it as much as he possibly can.
Exactly.
Because if he goes back, now all of a sudden he goes from a heart shot to a liver, maybe diaphragm.
Yeah, exactly.
Does that make sense?
Yep. So like we said, all four legs drop in that load position. I mean, look at this. Like his back right leg is like dang near on the ground, it looks like.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
So
yeah, it's wild.
Yeah. So that's also another thing to kind of take into consideration is what is the deer doing at the time of the shot? Is he feeding? Is he up and alert?
Yep.
That might kind of change where you hold the shot.
Absolutely. And again, I think I'm going to come back to this a lot. The whole idea behind this conversation is the fact that, like, again, this is for me, this is what I was taught and my experience. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And you might have your own way of doing it. You might not agree with everything we're saying. That's fine.
Yeah.
The thing of it is just take some time to think about the way you do things.
Exactly.
Because it's much easier to take the time now to think about it than in the heat of the moment.
Exactly.
Because the last thing you want to do is freeze up.
Yeah.
The last thing you want to do is just pull the trigger.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
You only, all of a sudden, that time's just ticking fast, and it's faster and faster, and then I gotta shoot.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And like, if you think about that stuff now, hopefully in that situation, or when you get out there, like you made a comment earlier, just go through your spot, and go, okay, where could this deer walk out? It's kind of funny you said that. Justin, my brother-in-law, he's a farmer, right? He farms on the side and he's got a full-time job. So this year he's gotten lucky. He's gotten everything done.
Yeah.
And so he got to sneak out like last Sunday night, and I called him. Oh, on my way to Omaha, I called him. And he was just like freaking out because he's just like, oh man, dude, it just felt so good to get out. And he goes, he was kind of like, I was laughing at him because, and he probably would be mad if I told you this, but I don't care. He was like, man, he's like, it just felt right.
Yeah.
Like, I just felt like this is what I'm supposed to be doing, It's like, I'm supposed to be a hunter,
Yeah.
And I'm like, heck yeah, dude, I know exactly what you mean. And he goes, man, I was just sitting there, and he goes, I was just picking the whole place apart. Like, he's like, I knew every tree, every limb, every leaf. Like, I was like thinking about visualizing, like, if a deer walked out here, what I would do in this situation. Like, okay, that's off limits. You know what I mean? He's like, he even was talking about how he's like, there was a spot, he was on private land, so he could cut.
Yeah.
He's like, he goes, I had a spot where I could have cut a branch to make a lane. He goes, but knowing where the trails were, the deer's probably going to be like really quartering to me there. And he's like, and I don't even want to tempt myself.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's like, and with a recurve bow, and it's just so funny because that's exactly, I'm the exact same way.
Yeah.
I get out there and I just start to really go, okay, if a deer steps out here, what am I going to do?
Yeah, exactly.
Where am I going to hold?
When can I draw?
Yeah. Where can I make a shot? Even we were out last night. Okay. We're going to see them ahead of time. They're going to go behind that tree with all that branches and all those leaves. I'm going to draw there, and then I'm probably going to have to mac to stop them because they're not going to just stop automatically.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's a lot to it, dude. And I think, like you said, just having that type of understanding and thinking through that stuff, I think in the heat of the moment just makes it a lot better.
Yeah. Well, and that's like the exact situation of the video of the buck that I shot. It's like, I knew for sure it was going to happen really fast. I mean, you can see in the video, it was a cornfield that came up to a corner in the wood edge or whatever.
Yep.
It's like, okay, well, if this happens, it's going to happen really quick. So like, I just tried to make sure that I had everything kind of dialed in because I knew it was going to happen fast. And I wouldn't have time to think about it as much in that moment. So when you have time to think about it.
Yeah. And I think the next thing to mention with all this too is we're very fortunate right now in the fact that we're filming it. Mm-hmm. So you have the opportunity to look back and to know that, oh man, that deer ducked. You know what I mean? It's not just, I hit high or I was aiming high. I wasn't aiming high. I hit her high because she ducked.
Yeah.
So we have the ability to look back at the video, but there's a lot of guys, and dude, me before this season, dude, it had been how many years, more than I can remember. That's just me out hunting.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, in that moment, just try to do everything you can to what just happened? Where did that arrow hit?
Yeah.
How is the deer reacting?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Yeah. I've been hunting one of the weekends you went home. So I went hunting and I kind of went a little, doe spree there.
Yeah.
And I hunted that first morning, that Saturday morning, button buck walked down this trail and I was at a severe angle.
Yeah.
Real severe. And I mean, it was pretty, I would consider it like a steep angle, not a moderate or low. It was a steep angle.
Yeah. And
I thought, okay, I'm going to try to heart shoot him. Well, even in that situation, I probably should have aimed a little higher.
Yeah.
But when I hit him, I hit him right behind the shoulder. I'm like, oh yeah, here we go, baby. I mean, and I see right away, bloop, like just spewing the blood. I'm like, jackpot.
Yeah.
But it ran and then it stopped and it didn't just fall over. It just kind of stood there. And right away, I'm like, okay, how is it acting? What is it doing? Well, and in that moment, I'm like, man, I had to have just single lunged it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I obviously didn't hit the heart, or I didn't hit in the heart as much as I thought.
Yeah.
Or I just hit the lung and straight past your arrows on the ground. And it stood there for probably 5 minutes, just standing there, just kind of doing its thing, kind of doing the little sway dance a little bit. You know what I mean? I'm like, okay, you're not feeling super good. And then finally crappie flopped.
Yeah.
And then actually, on this public spot that we've been hunting, had a doe the next evening, on Sunday evening, walked right down the trail. She had no idea I was there, had no idea.
Yeah.
I mean, I stood up, I grabbed my bow. She had no idea. She was looking away with her left leg forward. I'm like, oh, here we go. And quartering away, I'm like, jackpot. And I shot to hit her in the opposite right shoulder. And sure enough, that's exactly what it did. And it stuck. I mean, you could hear it stuck and the arrow was sticking out.
Yeah.
When she ran, it had a good little spew at first. And then she ran off. She barely made it over this fence, trying to kind of hold her right leg because obviously the arrow was stuck in it.
Yeah.
She got over the fence and then took a hard left. We'll talk. I think we're going to do a whole podcast on blood trailing.
Yeah.
But I knew when I shot her and the way she acted, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to have a really good blood shot on this deal.
Yeah.
Because it was not severe angle, more of a moderate angle.
Yeah.
But it stuck in that opposite shoulder, so I didn't have an exit. You know what I mean? So I had to be very aware of where she crossed and where she was going.
Yeah.
Because I probably wasn't going to have this red carpet like I did with that doe that button buck the day before.
Yeah, exactly.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
And so I think just really being aware of what's happening in the moment.
Yeah.
If you're not trying to film it. And obviously that's what's awesome about lighted knocks too. You know, I always talk about my mind's eye, you know, like what did I see in that moment? What do I remember? What just happened? Try to take that time to really think about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because after the fact, it's like, geez.
Yeah. Be as present as you can and as in the moment as you can. So then you can kind of play it back in your mind and see what happened.
Yeah. Yeah. No. And I think, I think that what you just said there is so true. And I've said that a lot to you about trying to be present.
Yeah.
Just be in the moment. Don't think about what's going on after the fact. Don't think about calling your buddies.
Yeah.
As much as you can, just be present.
Yeah.
Be committed to just being there right then and there.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't get ahead of yourself.
Yeah.
Let all that take care of itself.
Yep.
Like you need to concentrate. And I've said this before too. You need to concentrate on the last 10 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Because a lot of times we mess up the last 10 seconds and that can affect you for the next 10 days, 10 weeks.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
10 months.
Yeah. Exactly.
Until the next fall comes back again.
Yeah.
So I think the other thing I think we want to talk about here, and I kind of was going through that a little bit as I was just kind of going through some of the other deer that I've shot this year, is really starting to try to understand a deer's anatomy.
Yeah.
We talk about shot placement in just where to aim, like I think we've established that, I am a lower third type guy. I'm a heart shot type guy. You know what I mean? That's what I like to do.
Yeah.
Again, the severity of the angle will kind of adjust how low I hold, because if it's a super severe angle and I hold super low, I'm probably only going to single lung them unless I heart shoot them, right? But if I have more of that moderate angle, then I can aim low because I know that arrow's not going in at such a severe angle.
Right.
So you have to think about it. It does become a game of angles, right? But to just really understand that I like to try to aim low and let them try to duck into it.
Right.
And then let the severity of the angle kind of help determine how up or down I hold.
Right.
And then obviously the angle of the deer determine how much left and right I aim.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Exactly. Yep.
But I think, so that's kind of what I think about. That's like the first kind of mantra exercise that I would say that I go through a lot. But then the thing that I think that I've done a ton more, really, I think since I used to guide.
Yeah.
And I was going to get into this later, but I think it's really applicable to right now. I actually carry this in my truck.
Yeah.
I put it in a little black notebook, but this is a shot placement guide that's by the National Bowhunter Education Foundation.
Yeah.
The first one that I ever used was an elk. They have whitetail, elk, black bear, turkey. Maybe they have more, but those are the ones I've seen. And the one that I used to use a lot was elk. And the whole idea behind it is that there's all these, I'm going to try to show this so you don't see the glare, but there's all these layers. So literally the first layer, you literally just go, okay, where did I hit it? I hit it right there. You know what I'm saying? And then you can start to flip through this, and it literally has all the different layers of a deer. They're these transparent pieces of paper. And all of a sudden, okay, there was the muscles. Now I go to first that was just the deer, then it's the muscles. Then I go to the bones. Then I go to the circulatory system, right? Like all of its veins and arteries and everything. It's heart. Then I go to all the organs.
Yep.
And it literally just overlays one on top of the other. So the cool thing is you can literally just go right through it. The other thing is they send you like a little white piece of paper, which when I first saw this when the elk went, I was like, well, I'm supposed to do that. But actually the cool thing is you could take this and you could have it. So I'm like, okay, I'm looking at, this is the bones. So help me here, Nick. I'm going to try to make this, there's a big old thing here. So here's the bones of this deer. But when I move the piece of paper, all of a sudden, boom, now look, I can see all of its organs.
Yep.
I can see its shoulder. I could see its leg. I could see if I came up that leg and if I hit right here, well, what's right there? Okay, well, there's its heart. There's its lungs. Oh, man, I hit a little back. What would that have been? Okay, well, there's its liver. There's its diaphragm.
Yep.
And so this has really become a powerful tool for me.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe this seems kind of old school, but man, it works super good.
Yeah.
And I really, really like it.
Yeah.
You know, and it was really handy when you would have clients because you would go to the elk one and just go, all right, man, where'd you hit it?
Yeah.
Where'd you hit it?
Point it out.
Point it out.
Yeah.
Don't look at the other sheets yet.
Yeah.
Just point it out.
Yeah.
And they would go, man, dude, I think I hit it right here.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's go through it. You know what I mean? And you can literally we just take our finger, point it there, and then you can flip through the sheets and you can really see.
Yeah, exactly.
It makes a huge difference.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But just to really start to understand the anatomy. So like you said, whether it's this shot placement guide, like I said, it's by the National Bowhunter Education Foundation. You can find these on their website.
Yep.
The other thing that's out there, like you said, the DeerCast app has got a great shot placement, interactive shot placement. It's pretty cool.
Fully kind of 3D looking type deal.
Yeah, so you literally can show just show the deer, and then you can flip it to their anatomy, and then you'll see all of its organs. You'll see its bones and its shoulder and everything.
Yeah.
And you can turn it to the left side, to the right side, if it was turned right, if it was turned left. You know what I mean?
Quartering away, quartering to, whatever.
Yep. I think the one that I saw, it's just broadside. Maybe they do have a way to do it quartering away.
I thought I've seen one where it's 3D. Maybe I'm wrong.
Maybe
it's something else. I don't know. But
yeah, you very, very well could. But so I think that's a great way too. I mean, call me old fashioned. Like I said, I like that a lot.
Yeah.
But I also have the DeerCast app. So,
yeah, exactly.
I mean, I just seem like I revert to this a lot.
Right.
But there's a lot of great stuff out there. But I think the big thing, the moral of the story is spend some time really understanding a deer's anatomy.
Learning it. Yeah.
Learning it. Learn. And whatever type of species that you're going after.
Yeah. 100%.
Sometimes for some animals, it can be a bit hard to find information.
Yeah.
I remember years ago, I went on a black bear hunt.
Yeah.
I did a black bear hunt when I was 21 years old, 22 years old, right? I went to Northwest Ontario, did a black bear hunt, did a guided black bear hunt. I'd never shot a black bear before.
Yeah.
So, dude, I ended up at the public library looking at encyclopedias, looking at anything I could find.
Yeah.
Trying to, at that time, what was the internet, trying to just search on the internet, just trying to find.
Yeah.
Well, here come find out black bear's vitals are higher than they do sit in a deer.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
And so all of a sudden, it's different.
Kind of changes your mindset a little bit.
Well, and it changes where that shot placement's going to be. So that's the big thing I would say is just take some time to really understand a deer's organs.
Yep.
And I think when we talk about the anatomy, and I've talked about this on a previous episode, but, and I heard this years ago, and I think this really changed the way I bow hunt, especially with a compound bow, because there's different things, right? Like if you're a compound bow hunter, if you're a traditional bow hunter, you shoot a recurve bow, or if you're a gun hunter, maybe these rules don't apply or they change because they did for me.
Yeah. And
they do for me now, even how I tell Jet to shoot stuff, you know what I mean? How I hunted as a traditional bow hunter, but as a compound bow hunter, man, I heard something and this has kind of become, the way I do things is I understand a deer's anatomy, and if I can have my broadhead touch that deer's heart, that deer's going to die.
Yeah, exactly.
And it doesn't always work out that I can get that type of a shot, but if I can, and I can get them broadside, if I can get them, broadside. Quartering away, you can do it too, but man, a broadside shot, if I can get a broadside shot and I can have that arrow touch their heart, it is game over.
Right.
I don't even need it to go all the way through, I just need it to touch it.
Yeah.
If I touch it, it's done.
Right.
And so I would just say, think a lot about that. And that for me has really, and I always kind of go like this is my deer, you know what I mean? Like front leg, belly, shoulder, or top of its back. I'm always if I'm trying to do that, I'm just trying to aim right down here. Does that make sense? I'm trying to hit them in the heart. Right. And if they duck into everything good.
Yeah.
But I think that's really, really changed the way I do things.
Yeah.
The other thing that I would say it's really changed the way I do things is when I understood the anatomy is understanding that, where a deer's shoulder blade is as it walks.
Yeah.
A lot of times when I get in the situation, I'll find myself thinking like forward, like back, like forward, like back. Like even when I draw my bow, I think, okay, is there leg forward? Is there leg back? Where is their leg?
Yeah.
A couple years ago, the guys, it's just buddies I would talk to, they would laugh. They were like, dude, I can't believe you remember like that. I'm like, Yeah. Like I remember her leg was forward. I remember her leg was back.
Yeah.
Because it totally changes what that deer presents to you.
Yeah.
Right. If her leg is back, she's really closing herself off to a lot because her shoulder blade comes more down.
Yeah.
But if her leg is straight or her leg is forward, she's opening herself up a lot more.
Yeah.
There's a lot of misconception that like when a deer's got her leg straight, I keep saying her because I love killing does. So it's when I think of deer, I think of does.
Yeah.
But when a deer's leg is straight, their shoulder blade is actually forward over here.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's not like you can't just go straight up their leg and hit. There's a big open spot right there.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks your shoulder blade is like there. That's not how it is. It actually sits like this. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
If they put their leg forward, man, they really give it to you.
Yeah.
Now they put that leg back, then all of a sudden that shoulder blade does come down and it closes things off a lot more.
Right.
And so I think you just to think about that stuff, learn a deer's anatomy.
Yeah.
Not just their organs, but where their bones and everything fall as well.
Yeah. And another thing too is learn from what happens after the shot. You know, obviously everybody's fired up after they shoot a deer or kill a deer and, you know, they want to get it taken care of, go show their buddies. But I think it's super important that when you're field dressing a deer is figure out where you actually hit. I mean, that's the best thing. It's right there in front of you. You can see, okay, yep, this one took out one lung, it looks like. Oh, this one drilled the heart. Like, that's perfect, exactly what I wanted to do. And then just add that to your stuff that you're trying to learn, whether it be starting from the top and learning the anatomy, but then take it a step further after everything happens and learning even more from, you know, actually being in the field and seeing it.
Absolutely. I mean,
and that's the reason that Owen had me make those, because every deer he shoots, he tries to pick apart what the deer was doing, how they're acting, and he just tries to learn from it, which I think is huge and probably a testament to his success too.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have it's kind of funny. It's pretty gross. I have a stick in my garage. I don't even know where I got it. It's like this little stick and it looks like an arrow, but it's just a little stick that's like perfectly like circular.
Yeah.
It's this long stick. And what I do a lot is when I get a deer home, I'll stick that stick in the
entry and the
entry
exit.
and the exit and just and literally stick it right through it before I'll either do it usually when I still have the hide on or when I have the hide off, and I'll just see where it went.
Yeah.
Okay, I know how the angle was. I know what it was doing. Where did I hit?
Yeah, exactly.
And just really look at it.
Yeah.
The other thing I would say too, like you talked about, is taking the time afterwards to really look at things.
Yeah.
Man, you know, you want a great way to learn a deer's anatomy? Like when you walk up on a dead deer, take some time to understand, okay, well, this is where her sternum is. This is where her ribs are.
Yeah.
Where is her diaphragm?
Yeah.
Where is her liver?
Yeah.
Where does her heart sit? Where does her lungs sit?
Yeah.
You know, as you start to open them up and look at their chest, look at their front and their back leg, look at their belly and go, okay, what am I seeing when I get in there?
Yeah. How the shoulder can move, actually.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I tell you what, that can make a heck of a difference.
Oh, yeah.
Because, and we did that on Jet steer. It's like, oh, Jet, look, you double lunged him.
Yeah.
You know, didn't hit the heart at all.
No.
That deer that I shot on that Saturday morning, single lung, no heart.
Yeah.
And so it took a little bit longer.
Yeah.
You know, they can go farther. That doe that next Sunday evening, that was quartering away, stuck in the opposite shoulder, double lung.
Yep.
Just barely clipped her heart, like just the top of it.
Yeah.
And she crossed that fence, ran 75 more yards, and then piled up just obviously head over tea kettle.
Exactly.
You know?
Yep.
So, yeah, I think that could be a big thing, is just take the time to really, you know, learn from that experience. And hopefully you can take it in the next opportunity.
Yep, exactly.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
You know, the other thing to mention is, you know, we've talked about when you're out there and just to go through, okay, where are my shots going to be? Where would I want to try to put an arrow if it was here, if they're here? Okay. Then you can start to think about, okay, where am I going to put that arrow? What's that arrow going to hit?
Yeah.
Right? Like now that I know where my shots are, okay, if that deer stands broadside, what is it going to be? Okay, is that going to be more of potentially a quartering away shot? Or is that going to be a broadside shot? What about their legs forward? What if their legs back? With this angle, what may I do differently?
Yeah.
And then starting to think about that anatomy to really kind of hone that in even farther.
Right.
The other thing that I would say to think about, and I think that bow hunting is it's a game of angles.
Yeah.
Right. Where is the arrow going to go in, and where is that arrow going to go out?
Yeah.
Or where is it going to go in, and what is it going to hit?
Yeah.
That's not going to allow it to go out.
Yeah.
You know, I think there's different trains and schools of thoughts on that.
Yeah.
You hear some people say, man, I'm always looking for a straight pass through.
Yeah.
absolutely great.
Yeah.
Well, and then other guys you hear say, man, like if I can stick it in their opposite shoulder,
Yeah.
jackpot. If I can keep that arrow in there and keep that broadhead, that sharp broadhead in there cutting stuff up and doing damage, that's how I'm going to bring them down.
You always hear kind of the old adage too, you know, aim for the exit.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, then that's all 100% angles.
Exactly. It all comes down to angles.
Yeah.
There's actually, I don't have one. I've seen videos of it, and I maybe have seen one in a shop before, but they actually have a pretty cool, there's a target out there. There's been some videos done on in the past that you can actually put an arrow without your broadhead, and you can put it all the way through.
Sneak it through it. Yeah.
Yep. And you could see, here's the enter, here's the exit, here's the enter, here's the exit.
Yeah.
And what the angles and how that affects things.
Right.
You know, and just to your point, aim for the exit, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes that could be really hard to do on a quartering away shot.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. You know, and sometimes you realize like, you know, you hear guys like, I really like a quartering away shot, but I don't like a severely quartering away.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, like, cause that gets really tricky, you know, and I've heard of, and like I said, you know, you try to sneak it in behind the last rib or ba-ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba, like, I don't know. I mean, there's just different ways of doing things, but really just thinking about the angles, where things are going in, where things are going out, based on if you're at that severe angle, moderate angle, low angle.
Yep.
Because I think it changes things.
Right. Definitely.
All of a sudden you felt like you put the arrow in the right spot, but you only single lunged them.
Yeah.
And then they run to beat the band.
Forever. Yeah.
Yep. It can be really tricky.
Yeah. Without a doubt.
You know?
Yeah.
The other thing that I would say about that as well, when it comes to that game of angles, again, this sounds cliche to say, but it's bow hunting.
Yeah.
And the reality is that our arrows aren't going 3,000 feet per second, 2,000 feet per second. They're going maybe 200 to 300 feet per second.
Yeah.
They're just not going that fast.
Right.
And so inherently, there's a lot that can happen between when the arrow leaves your bow and then when the arrow gets there.
Yep.
And so, you know, just understand that different shots have different consequences.
Yeah.
Just like we're kind of describing here, you know, and you have to just be very real with yourself about what happened.
Yeah.
And then you need to react accordingly or not react accordingly or decide what your next move is accordingly.
Exactly.
For us, you know, the consequence of that deer ducking was that I hit it high in the shoulder and that we needed to just back out of there and just give her time. Because if we would have gone in there on a high shoulder shot, that deer was not going to be dead and it was just going to run.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and so, and that gets into a whole nother set of discussion.
Yeah.
But I just think that understand that different shot angles have different consequences.
Yeah.
If it's a quartering way shot and you hit that opposite shoulder, that arrow doesn't go through, that's an indicator that you hit something.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And so, you know, you're not going to have a lot of times when an arrow sticks in, and if an arrow hits, if it's a severe angle and you hit kind of, it's going down into it, you might not have much blood. You might have hit it perfect, but you're not going to get a lot of blood.
Yeah.
That deer that I shot that Sunday night, I just knew when I shot blood shot, I was like, well, that's kind of what I figured was going to happen. I don't have anything for blood. Yeah. Like, I know where she went. She couldn't have gone very far, but I didn't have anything for blood. It was nothing, dude. It was nothing. I go in there and her insides were just like jello.
Mangled.
Oh, it's coagulated, terrible.
Yeah.
But didn't bleed.
Right.
You know, so just understand, or if all of a sudden you shoot that deer and your arrow is just kind of hanging out the other side. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, then that arrow is probably going to work itself out. It's going to catch on a tree or a piece of grass or whatever. You're going to have blood coming out.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
So, yeah, I think that, you know, just spend some time thinking about shot placement.
Yes.
You know?
Yes, it's very important.
Yeah. I think it can make all the difference.
Yeah. Yeah, because you put in all this work. And
oh, man.
You want to make sure you're taking the right steps that you can come through when that happens.
Yeah, the last thing you want to do is to be, even just play it out in your mind. You're in a stand and you're out there at 2:00 in the afternoon. You're just sitting there, you're hanging out, you're enjoying the afternoon, and all of a sudden at 5:30, okay, there's that deer, you see him.
Yeah.
And then he walks over here and he comes through that gate and he comes out in the field and you're just thinking about, okay, where am I going to shoot him? You're ranging, you're trying to, he's quartering to me, and you're just kind of like in the moment of like, what's the deer doing? Is it going to come towards me? Is it going to turn? Do I need to shoot? No, do I need to wait?
Yep.
All these things are going through your head and you're, it's looking at me. I can't move. You're holding really still. Then it turns, looks, okay. And then you kind of move a little bit.
Yeah.
And you're doing your things and all this stuff is happening. And then all of a sudden you're like, your mind or your instinct, your experience says, I should shoot him now.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you draw, and that's the first time you think about where you're going to put the arrow.
Yeah, exactly.
Man, I just think it's doing yourself a disservice.
Yeah, without a doubt.
You know, I'm not saying that you have to sit there and just think about shot placement every second of the
Yeah,
hunt.
you got to think about everything.
Yeah, but I just think it's
don't
something.
Don't forget about that piece.
Yeah, don't forget about it.
Yeah.
Because I just, you know, you don't want that to be, you don't want shot placement to be the thing you only think about when you're at full draw.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
You know?
Yep.
But yeah, and like you said, I feel like this comes at a good time because just like you said, we are getting to the point where all of this work is about ready to pay off.
All this time.
And it's starting to pay off for a lot of people already. I mean, you can see it.
Yeah.
I mean, we just came off Red Moon. There's a lot of guys that have whapped some stuff already.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, they've started to stack some stuff up, and that's awesome.
Oh yeah.
But again, the rut's going to start heating up, and everything's going to start getting awesome. And man, just make that shot count.
Yep. It's an exciting time, but don't get ahead of yourself.
Yeah. Well, I think that's good.
Yeah.
I think we wrap it up.
Yep.
Yeah, like I said, for everybody that's out there that's going to get out hunting, good luck, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I mean, and like I said, make good shots, send us some pictures.
Yeah, without a doubt. It'd be awesome to see some success.
Yeah. And like I said, check out those shot placement, like whether it's the apps, you know, these types of, you know, shot placement charts and diagrams. There's a lot of stuff out there.
Oh, yeah.
Just take some time and check that stuff out.
Yep, without a doubt.
All right. Another one in the books, number 25.
25.
Quarter of the way to a century, baby.
Let's go.
Yeah. Thanks for listening. Like I say, good luck out there. I'm Cole Tanner.
I'm Nick Simon.
That's it.
See you next week.
Done.